Item number 2 on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Karen, please call the roll.
Director Magner.
Present.
Director Kelly.
Here.
Director Dransfeld.
Here.
Director Roberts.
Here.
Chairman Malloy.
Here. We all got our heres in order. Move on to item 4, amendments to the agenda.
No amendments.
No amendments. Thank you, Mary.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
I will second.
Please call the roll.
Director Magner.
Aye.
Director Roberts.
Aye.
Director Kelly.
Aye.
Director Dransfeld.
Aye.
Chairman Malloy.
Aye. Item 5, public comment. In accordance with Government Code Section 54954.3, the board reserves this time to hear from the public. If you'd like to speak about an item on the agenda, we would prefer you complete a speaker card. Give it to the clerk of the board and wait until it comes up. If you would like to make comments about other items not on this agenda, in accordance with California law, we will listen, note them, and bring them back up at a later date for discussion. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to address the board. And I see no speaker cards. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 6, the consent agenda. Are there any items that board members wish to pull from the consent agenda? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as proposed?
Move to approve consent agenda.
And a second?
I'll second.
I'll get it figured out.
Please call the roll.
Director Roberts. Director Magner.
Aye.
Director Kelly.
Aye.
Director Dransfeld.
Aye.
Chairman Malloy.
Aye. So that moves us on to item 7A, a public hearing. Administrative Analyst Anthony Miller will present this item for us. It's consideration and approval of a development impact fee to be levied by the City of Camarillo on behalf of the Park District on certain specific building developments within the City of Camarillo. After that, the board can ask questions before the public hearing is opened. Anthony's going to give a presentation and go through it, and the board can then have to have any clarifying questions. I now declare the public hearing open. Members of the public are now invited to comment only towards the district's consideration and approval of a development impact fee to be levied by the City of Camarillo on behalf of the Park District on certain specific building developments within the City of Camarillo. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak for approving the development impact fee? You have 3 minutes to address the board. Seeing none, are there any members of the public that would like to speak against approving the development impact fee? You have 3 minutes to address the board. Seeing none, I now declare the public hearing closed. Are there any other comments from board members regarding this item?
Director Malloy, would you like Anthony to do the presentation?
Oh. Okay, there's no thing in my script here for presentation, so yes. Go ahead.
just have to call one person real quick, Blair Oz. He helped put together this Nexus study, so hang on just a moment.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
Apologies for the delays there and for the hiccups, but the study that you see as part of your packet, the Park Impact Nexus fee Nexus study, was prepared by SEI Consulting with Blair Oz as the primary author. Hopefully, I'll be able to get him on the phone. He should be able to be reached tonight, so that way he might be able to answer more specific questions on the fee program, but I'll be taking you through the brighter points here, and like I said, if there are further questions that I cannot answer, hopefully we can get a hold of him and he'll be able to answer some of the more specifics. So with that also, this presentation was prepared by Blair, and I agreed to present it. It is the exact same presentation that was provided to the city's Economic Development and Land Use Committee, the committee members of which that's Kevin Kildee and Sean Mulshay. So you will be seeing essentially the exact same presentation that they received a few weeks back. So let me get my slides up here. Okay. So essentially, this is just going to be a overview of the proposed Park Impact Fee Program that you saw in your as a part of your packet with the full study there. The objective of this fee program would be to establish an impact fee program that is specifically for new construction that's not subject to the city's Quimby ordinance. This would apply to existing residential lots, minor residential subdivisions, and non-residential development projects such as commercial and industrial projects. So at this stage, the district this action does not mean that the district is levying a new fee. The district is asking the city to levy a fee on the district's behalf. As the district doesn't have land use authority, the city does. The city is the only entity that is able to levy a fee like this, of this magnitude, or not this magnitude, of this style on the city's developments. The Nexus study establishes a legal and policy basis for establishing this fee program, and it would apply only to new construction, not existing construction. And fee revenues are restricted to facilities that expand district service capacity, and are primarily restricted to facility construction and facility expansion. The district would indemnify the city, and the district largely was responsible for collecting the fees, much in the same manner that the district is responsible for collecting Quimby fees. Accounting and reporting requirements are also the district's responsibility. The city's role would essentially be to levy the fee and calculate the fee, and that's pretty much where it ends. So a part of the study would be to determine a justified maximum for this fee program. So essentially what the district is asking the city to levy on the district's behalf. So in order to do that, the study went through and calculated on a per dwelling unit basis potential fee amounts that the district board has the option to approve. These would be considered fee amount maximums. And for non-residential development, they are calculated by building square feet. Now, the reason for the difference between these two items is that often times, obviously, commercial and industrial developments are larger in nature, and they are not as dense as residential developments are, and residential developments are typically measured in dwelling unit capacities when going through the development process as well. So there's a small difference there between the two in the approval process as well. Also, to put this in comparison with the district's Quimby fee, currently the Quimby fee it averages out to about $8,300 per unit with the district's current Quimby fee receipts. The fee collection process, essentially the districts would receive fees that are imposed by the city's building department or community development department at the time of the building permit issuance. The fee would be collected by the district, which in practice means they would walk in the district's front door and hand us a check. At least that's essentially how the Quimby process actually works. The district would provide them with a receipt. They come back to the city. They show the receipt that they have actually paid the fee, and the city then allows them to continue on with their project. 4% is included in this calculation for administration. Typically, that is split between the city and the district. For administrative purposes, that's 2% and 2%. And it's written to automatically adjust annually in accordance with the Engineering News Record Construction Cost Index. And this is specifically tied to cost of building. So not necessarily things like the cost of consumer prices and things like that. It isn't tied to that because those don't have as much impact on what the district should use these fees for, which is construction. Accounting requirements for this fee program, they must be deposited into a separate fund or account. So much like the Quimby fees are in Fund 30, this would potentially be in like a Fund 40. Fee proceeds must be expended solely for the purpose for which they were collected. So in the fee study, you'll notice that the senior center expansion, the community center project, is used as a justifying project. That will continue on until that project is built. In order to continue levying this fee, the district must maintain something along the lines of a 5-year CIP or a list of ongoing projects that the fee can be levied for. Fee proceeds must be expended on park and recreational facilities that expand the district's service capacity. And now, I can't stress that enough. That is explicitly a requirement of fee programs like this, that they are tied to the projects in which they fund. So to get in a little bit further into allowable uses and prohibited uses of fee revenue, I'm not going to read all of these things off, but the highlights really is that the district can't use these fees for maintenance. The district actually cannot use these fees for park land acquisition. But while that might seem counterintuitive, it's primarily because these fees are directed towards facility and capacity expansion. So while a new park would obviously be a capacity expansion, they're primarily directed towards usage for building facilities upon those parks that exist already, or for parks that are then developed into the future. So that is why the existing here is underlined, and parks and recreational facility costs already incurred that provide growth-related capacity. So basically, in practical terms, that means something like the community center project that would expand capacity at the community center site. That would be a project that this program could fund. Oh, and one thing I also wanted to mention here is that you can't build a swimming pool with it, which kind of surprised me. But I don't particularly know the exact reason for that, but that is what was presented to us as part of the study. In the annual report that the district would be required to make, we would be required to make it available to the public within 180 days after the last day of each fiscal year, so essentially before December. And in the 5-year findings report, every 5th year after we receive fee proceeds, and every 5 years thereafter, this could be made in conjunction with the annual report. The district must report on what the fees were spent on, what the status of those projects that they were levied in conjunction with, what those projects are, and what potentially will be spent on going forward into the future. And that's why I mentioned the CIP is something that could be very important to this program. The reports would be prepared by the district, and since the city is the fee levying entity, they would be approved by the district board and then given to the city council for filing. So at this point, a lot of these things have already occurred. We have reached out to the local building trade group. The draft ordinance has been drafted. The resolution in front of you is very similar to the resolution language that the city will be considering. And the city council will be following the exact same process that we're following here today, and that there will be a public hearing, a first reading, and an ordinance passage. The district doesn't have to pass an ordinance because we're not actually levying the fee. However, the city must pass an ordinance in order to make it official. The city council will then have to do a second reading as required for ordinances, and once that is passed, the implementation of the fee program will commence. So with that, I will turn it over to the board for questions, and I can attempt to get Blair on the phone again if you would like me to. Otherwise, I can probably answer a few of your questions, and if I can't, I can always try and call them again and defer.
I'm pretty sure you can handle it, Anthony. Jordan, would you like to start out with questions?
If I can get this mic working, there we go. All right. One of the questions that I have to start out with is, with the 2020 census information, would that impact any of the numbers for the analysis here, do you know? Or have those been kind of factored in already with the population growth?
They have been, well, the 2020 census numbers, they can't obviously be factored in because we don't know exactly what those will be yet, but I believe in the study they used the American Community Survey to establish some of the numbers, and those were most recently updated, I think, in 2017 or 18, so they're a little more recent than the 2010 numbers. But going forward, if there's a need to update it, obviously you would probably use the most recent data, but the population numbers, frankly, they aren't super important for developing the actual dollar amounts. It's primarily in regards to the city's development pace. So number of units built, number of square footage added, things along those lines.
And sorry. Hey, there it is. All right. And then with regards to accessory dwelling units, I saw that they can't be included, and then I also saw that the city requested that they not be included. And so I just wanted to know if they're not able to be included, what's the status of the accessory dwelling units? I know essentially that the city's requested that they not be included if they're under 750 square feet, I believe. And then, but I believe some of the other material that I read stated that they can't be included.
So this is actually a bit of a touchy subject for a lot of reasons, actually, because the city has the ability to request that they not be included over 750 square feet. Under 750 square feet, if I'm getting this correct, I believe Mary will probably nod here, the state actually exempts ADUs under 750 square feet from impact fees like this. Now, the city can also ask that they be exempted above 750 square feet, which is what they're doing here.
Okay, I understand that. Thanks. That helped clarify that a little bit. And then also, recently read Tony Tremblay's letter in the Acorn regarding SB 9. And that's essentially land use that the state is looking to pass with regards to similar situations like this, subdividing lots and accessory dwelling units, those sorts of things. So I was wondering if that's going to be considered, and if that passes, if something like this could be reconsidered or revisited.
So if that passes, there's always the possibility that something like this can be reconsidered, but it would unfortunately be up to the city council to take that issue on. The district board can ask the city council to address that, but currently, just politically, cities in general have been encouraged to provide as many dwelling units within their borders as possible, obviously. And so SB 9 is another way of potentially upping that number, making it easier for cities to approve more units. However, it does come into conflict with the idea of being able to levy fees on those units to offset their impacts. So there's a little bit, there are issues there that are a little bit larger than the district themselves. There's definitely, a lot of them lie in Sacramento. But unfortunately, a policy or a program like this isn't really future-proofed against those things. They have to be addressed as they come up.
Thank you.
Director Ransfeld, do you have any questions? None? Director Kelly?
Not really a question. Anthony, assume that there might be some people watching this on television or coming back to watch it maybe later. Could you just summarize in the most simple fashion exactly what we're talking about here tonight?
Sure thing. So the district is asking the city to levy a fee program on new residential development, new industrial development, and new commercial development that isn't subject to the Quimby Act. The Quimby Act only deals with the subdivision of residential properties over 5 units. And furthermore, the entire purpose of this fee program would be to help offset population growth or temporary population growth, particularly with industrial and commercial business activity that comes in on a daily basis, the idea would be to help offset some of the impacts on the park system from those individuals that aren't currently being recovered through the Quimby fee program.
And so we would be getting funds where we aren't getting them now.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, that was good.
Elaine, any?
No.
No, okay.
Totally understand.
All right, so we have all our questions asked. Now, comments from the board regarding the proposal itself. Anybody like to start? I'll start then. Yeah, this is basically a closing of a loophole. Obviously, when more people move into town, you need more park and recreation facilities and programs for them. And there's been a hole in the program where stuff that wasn't already set can be developed, and we get nothing to pay for that. And I'm sure in the slim chance that SB 9 gets passed, that there'll be developer fees that will come with that, because it's only natural. You have more population, you got to have money for recreation space. The really interesting thing that I saw in this, and Anthony, this is one of your very best staff reports. There's an awful lot of detail in here. Is the mention that according to the city's general plan, we're supposed to have 5 acres for every 1,000 residents, and based on that estimate, we've only, based on the population we have and the amount of property we have, we only have 3.56 acres for every 1,000 residents. So it's sort of unfortunate that this money is not going to be allowed to be spent on buying land, which is one of the things we clearly need a lot more of. And, but also it's only really appropriate for infill projects, and that's, not really going to generate enough to buy land with anyway. So this is going to be sort of a supplement. But it's clear that we have a big shortage. We need 140.28 acres of developable space to add to the district to make the 5 acres per 1,000 residents, and that's before we get the new census numbers, where the census is likely to be higher. So, this is clearly needed. It's well stated. All of the obvious, such as no maintenance, and not so obvious, can't build a pool, sort of loopholes and the things. But as we all know, when legislation gets put together, there's a lot of parties involved and a lot of horse trading, and different factions get things thrown in that don't seem logical. But they are things we gotta take care of. So I appreciate the city's support in doing this, because it's something that should have been done decades ago and didn't get done, and it is very appropriate and fair that we get this fee.
I have a question. Anthony, I know that you and Mary have made a presentation before the County Board of Supervisors for that new farm workers project. If we have buildings that are being built outside of the city limits, but yet are within our boundaries, is there a provision for us to ask the county to do something similar to this?
So as part of this initial contract, actually, we asked them to provide a study not only for the city, but also for the county.
Okay, that's why I asked.
This is just the first step, and the second half of this would be to present it to the county. However, the county is a little more removed from the day-to-day business of the district because,
Right.
Well, for obvious reasons, but so we haven't yet entered into the conversation with county staff members yet. It's coming up here pretty soon, and to start once this hopefully gets passed. The other issue with that also, for example, using the Somas Farm Worker Housing Project as an example, even if the county did have an ordinance like this in place, it wouldn't have affected the district because those units were currently outside of the district as is.
Yeah, I understand that. I was thinking about the area between here and the college.
Yes, so anything
That
out in
was
that
the-
direction, yes, that
Yeah.
could be a potential discussion.
Yeah, that was the area I was thinking about, so, thank you. Yeah, I'm with Director Malloy. This is way past the time, and it's very necessary, so. it'll be interesting to see just how much we will actually be able to receive. It won't be just when we're having a big development. These will kind of be the under the radar things that are happening in town that happen on a daily and weekly basis. So. Thank you, Anthony. Very good.
Anyone else? Director Roberts?
I just wanted to say thank you to Mary and Anthony for this. It was great, thorough analysis and all the work that went into it. Thank you.
Director Kelly?
I remember when I first came on the board and we were having discussions about how the money was distributed when the projects were built. And to my surprise, I found out that we really had no say in how things how the money was distributed. And from that point on, this board worked in order to try to rectify that problem. And this is kind of a high water mark because I never thought we would be able to pull something like this off. So congratulations to everybody.
Thank you. Director Dransfeld?
Just one question, Anthony, too, is I don't know if this would be covered, and this is just an example. With the Kmart lot, if that was repurposed from commercial to residential, and making it, the apartments as once discussed, would this apply?
I hesitate to say yes without caveats, because there is the potential for, so the way this is written also is that if you do repurpose certain square footage into another, or you expand and so on and so forth, you get credit for certain square footage that already exists. I don't know if that's applicable for when changing use. When you're changing use from commercial to residential, that is probably, I personally would interpret that as something that you could levy the fee on. However, I'm sure there's probably an attorney out there who would disagree with me. So,
So to just take this a step further, if you remember, probably a really good example was on Ventura Boulevard. And they put the new mixed use, so there was nothing there. So because it wasn't subdivided, the district received no money. So in this instance, we would have received developer fees for that had this been in place. So this would have been a prime example. So a lot of your infill projects potentially have the capacity to do this. We were fortunate with the development that's down off of Camino Ruiz, down in that area. Since we actually are receiving fees for that, not necessarily Quimby, but that's an apartment complex that's going up. Because we went through the CEQA process, we were able to get fees, but this would have been a way to get those without having to go through the entire CEQA process.
Got it.
So just some examples of where this would work.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've really hit exactly what this is for. When it's going to be repurposed and it's bringing people in, it's definitely an impact. And I don't recall you mentioning it, Anthony, but in your fiscal impact summary to the whole discussion, you mentioned that we're conservatively estimated to generate $3.4 million between now and 2040 that would go for park development. That's some really significant money. It's little bits at a time over time, but it really adds up. It's really significant. Okay, unless there are any other questions or comments, I need a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the maximum fees as stated in the Park Impact Fee Nexus Study and refer the study and fees to the Camarillo City Council for review and the approval of the program's implementation.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Karen, please call the roll.
Director Magner?
Aye.
Director Roberts?
Aye.
Director Kelly?
Aye.
Director Dransfeld?
Aye.
Chairman Malloy?
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, On to item 8, new items, discussion action, review and approve updated 2021 to 2026 5-year strategic plan.
That would be me.
Looks like Mary.
It is. Good evening, board members, Chairman Malloy, Marriott, General Manager of Pleasant Valley Recreation Park District. So what we have is just kind of go through a quick summary. In 2013, the board adopted an initial strategic plan, and that went through 2018. In the meantime, we've been working off the old strategic plan as we've been updating, haven't been able to meet all those goals, so we've been continuing to do that. In January of this year, the board met and reviewed the mission statement, reviewed the vision and the strategic focus areas, where the board came up with 5 focus areas. And so we had brought that before you on April 7th to get board input. So as part of the strategic plan, it's the organizational management tool. It helps us set priorities for the board, staff, where we're going to focus energy, money, resources, helps us strengthen operations, and then also work toward a common goal. So there'll be deliverables. So on an annual basis, when we do board goal setting meetings, what we'll do, staff will come back before the board, look at the goals, make sure those are still in line, or if we need to move those a little bit, but this really helps kind of focus that. So the 5 focus areas, one is sustained financial stability, a new senior/community center, completion of outstanding projects, program clarity, and employee morale and succession planning were the 5 focus areas in which the board wanted to focus on. So with that, as you can see, just went through, there's 5 focus areas. We have 20 goals within those 5 areas and 102 strategies to meet those various goals. So just kind of a brief before we kind of go through it. Year 1, there's 55 strategies. Year 2, 63, and so on. What you'll notice, as I just said in the last slide, is we have 102 overall. So what this means is there are some goals that will take a year. There are some goals and strategies that will take 1 to 2 years, and there's some of these that will go every single year, which is why these don't add up to 102. So as mentioned in April, what we have is, what you can see is goal 1. So once again is 1.1, review costs, revenues, and subsidies for programs. So just to kind of give you kind of a brief overview, what we're looking at is, you can see doing a fee study, cost recovery analysis. So that would be year 1 and 2, depending on how long that study takes, how much effort, everything that we would need to do. So as you can see, developing sustained funding resources, that would be something that we would look at on an annual basis. So once again, you can see that some of these are going to be 5 years, some will be 2 years, some may take just 1 year to create. Oops. So again, going through each goal, sorry, glasses are fogging up. So going through each goal, you can see on this one, 1.3, we have A through G, and then you can see exactly on strategy A, that will take place the first year, SOMAS annexation. Here's an example. You'll see it's over 3 years. And the reason it's over 3 years is because the first year, which would be this next year, we'd be looking at annexing the small piece of SOMAS, which is the farm worker project. And then if we were going to continue with that for year 2 and 3, because we're going to need to do a lot more research as well as get information buy-in from the SOMAS community. So that's why that would potentially take years 2 and 3. So as you can see, it really is going to depend on what the goal is and what the strategy is for how many years. And it's trying to also spread this out, because when you first look at it, you can't do everything year 1. So what we did, staff did, is looked at it to go, what is year 1? What do you have to build on? And then also, what kind of resources, money, staffing time would be accounted for those. Goal 1.4, create green initiatives. Once again, A through F. You can see incorporate practices and designs of parks. So one of the things, when you're talking about green and sustainability, one of the things in the budget this year is turf. So removal of turf. So you can see that would be year one, but those will be things that we'll look at. LED lighting, as you can see down below. So as you can see, once again, spreading those out depending on resources in which we have. Goal 1.5, adapt new time and cost savings information technology to improve efficiencies. Once again, kind of spread out to look at what we can do initially, what needs to be taken place over time, and build on those. Goal 2.0, a new senior community center. So goal 2.1, a large portion of that is just re-engaging the city, re-engaging the LPA, which would take year one, and then looking at year 2 and year 3 would being to identify and working with a consultant if we needed to explore. One of the things and where we were at before we left and before COVID hit, we were looking at what those costs are if we needed to go out to the voters. So those would take place obviously after we got more defined information. And the second part of that 2.3 for the goals is upon completion of design. Now we've gone from the design and to figure out what the funding looks like, to also now figuring out what this looks like, what needs to be in there, what kind of programs it looks like. So that, as you can see, is down to year 3, 4, and 5. 3.0 is completion of outstanding projects. So one of the outstanding projects, renovate and modernize existing parks and recreation facilities. So part of that, and I think Anthony just mentioned that, as part of the developer fees is then also looking at updating the CIP. So that will be part of the project, looking at year 2. And part of the reason it's year 2, and I think this isn't another one, is one of the things we have slated for this year is the ADA. So we want to make sure that we get that and do that systematically. 3.2, complete a comprehensive park master plan. So once again, you can see where it's completing comprehensive PVRPD parks, pursue public and private partnerships, which will be something we continually do, obtain grant funding, continually looking at that, depending on what the needs and such are. And then, as you can see, part of this will also depend on what the results of the 2020 census are. So what we're trying to make sure is we're lining all of those things up. And as you can see on F on this one, as I just mentioned, develop and maintain an ADA transition plan, which will also help set the CIP. And then 3.3, finalize and complete the construction of phase 1 of our Neal Ranch. So that will actually be coming before you here, which is why it's part of year 1 and 2, because it'll take probably that long. And then continuing and exploring grant opportunities. 3.4 is update the Freedom Park Master Plan to include the entire property. So as most of you know, there is a Freedom Park Master Plan. But part of this would be to update that, being that we're looking at potentially adding pickleball out there, as well as looking at working with Miracle League to have a field. So it really would be to update that to make sure that's all inclusive. And then assessing funding park improvements, and then continue pursuing funds from the community. Okay, 4.0 is programming clarity. So this is looking at it and looking at, for the first one, ensure right core program mix using state and national recreation and park standards. So as you can see, the things that start first is looking at program delivery, identifying physical and financial barriers, what that looks like for programs, ensure that there's opportunities for people with disabilities, and then after we get through that analysis, then you can see the complete formal rec program comes in a little bit later. So we need to make sure that we look at all of those things first. 4.2, implement and update recreation management system. We've been working on that. The RFP obviously is complete. Next phase, we've been through the interviews on that, so the next phase hopefully will be to actually name one of those, which would be coming hopefully fairly soon, and then implement the software, which is why this is part of year one. And this obviously is critical, and you notice we also had this on when it came to the new community center, because we also want to make sure that all of these things can coexist. 4.2, implement and update recreation management software tailored for the district's size. Once again, that's part of the last one, just spilled over for continued. Identify the transition plan, training for new software, making sure that we have power users and everybody else is trained as we're working toward one system and off ActiveNet, and then develop and implement outreach to the public. 4.3, provide easily accessible information and effective community outreach through strategic marketing and community engagement. So as you can see, a majority of these are almost every single year. So those would be things that we would be doing on a consistent basis to always trying to engage the community. And this 4.3 is continued. So once again, using technology, implementing a marketing plan, and then increase marketing presence in the community through a variety of resources. 4.4, enhance community connections by fostering collaborative partnerships that leverage strength and resources to enrich the recreation experience. So once again, as you can see, all of these are every single year, because those are things and partners. This is kind of the collaboration part where we're working with cities, counties, other districts, agencies, to be able to foster partnerships. Working on providing volunteer opportunities, and then also continuing to work with the foundation. So the last one is employee morale and succession planning. So the first one is position the district to attract and retain high quality employees. So once again, you will see on this one, and we'll go through when we go 5.2 and 5.3, you'll see that there's some other things that may take priority first year, and then to set this up. So looking at year 2 with a lot of these, and then years 2 through 5 as we continue to take this process. So 5.2, this is where I was talking about continue cultivating an organizational structure that provides a positive work environment. So what you can see here is defining the roles, conducting formal annual staff evaluations, kind of conducting a staff needs assessment. So where are people at, what skills, what interests, what does that look like? Which is why I said this probably will take priority the first couple of years, and then the other one, 5.1, actually comes in. And then as you can see, obviously in all of those, establishing employee recognition committee, which I think one of the things looking at we'll bring back next week is looking at staff morale. And then promote and support professional development. So if you remember looking at the budget, currently there's over probably $25,000 for staff training and development on that side of it. 5.3, develop and improve communication across departments. So one of the things is to look at, are there better ways to communicate internally? So a lot of times what will happen is, I'm sure we're all aware, it's like one department will hear one thing and then 3 days later, and it's that game of telephone. So it really is working on how can we be more efficient to do some of those, and how can we put some standards in place. I think one of the things that we found out this year with the use of Teams and Zoom, it gives you the opportunity to actually communicate a little bit better, put people on calls. So during COVID, one of the things that we've been doing from the staff standpoint is I've actually got some of the lead workers that have been on the calls. So what happens in the parks is that they understand kind of what was going on from a COVID standpoint, and so it became kind of that direct messaging. It also has helped with, just not with staff training, but There's been a lot of times on some of this stuff on Zoom and Teams that you can actually communicate across, not just just internally, but externally as well. So there's been probably more education, training and such that we've been able to do as far as that's concerned. 5.4, create and implement a workforce succession plan. Once again, looking at the HR inventory, looking at positions, what does succession planning look like? How do we develop or look at individuals? So I'm going to use Bob here because he's sitting front row, but if Bob's looking to retire in 3 years, do we have a succession plan in place? How do we look at that? What training would any of his staff need to take his place? Are they qualified? So it really is looking at some of those things. And then the other big piece on E is ensure adequate knowledge is preserved. So there's a lot of knowledge, and I'm going to use Lanny, because I think Lanny's been here probably one of the longest. And so when you have the resident historian, if he were to retire tomorrow, we'd all be in trouble. So it really is making sure that we can preserve the information that's here and some of those, and hold on to that knowledge. So with that being said, there's no current financial impact by approving this strategic document. It is recommended the board review and adopt the updated 21-26 strategic plan.
Thank you, Mary. Questions from the board? No questions? It's funny how when you go over saying 3 times, when you get the fourth lap, it's
I have a
pretty
question.
well. Go ahead, Elaine.
Slide 15. Freedom Park. You were talking about a master plan.
Yeah.
Timing. 23, 24? Are you talking, I mean, then you brought up pickleball and Miracle League. I mean, we're already talking about doing those things, so I'm not sure how doing a master plan 2 years from now is going to, I'm missing something, Mary.
So so if that's something that we want to look at sooner, we can. I think what we were also looking at is not just those two, but also like with Freedom Center, looking at that.
And like the roller ring and what we're gonna, okay.
So it's
I'm with you. Because the other 2 things are kind of already maybe.
Correct.
Well, one of them is already started. The other one is possible, so.
Correct.
Okay, I'm with you. I don't have an issue with it, so.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
I'm with.
It's only been 20 years since I drew that little drawing of the baseball fields, so, we can wait 2 more. But,
Which is fully used.
well,
almost.
and it's such a unique property for us because it's
Yeah.
large. It doesn't have neighbors that are bothered by all the activities that we do. And when you set activities up that are on different timing schedules, it ends up there's being a lot of parking there. I mean, there's a lot of things that are possible out there. And it's also right where our service center is. So, that's another key thing, and that would be a part of that conversation as well.
No, I want to thank the staff for all the work they've done. I mean, we spent quite a few hours working on it, and I know you guys have spent probably hundreds of hours, but I think it's a workable document so that it gives us the guidance that we need, the direction. And with all strategic plans, you have to sometimes, let's pull this in here and pull that out there, and it's a good thing to have. So it doesn't, it's not cast in concrete, so that's the nice thing, so. But thanks again to the staff.
Director Kelly, no comments? Director Roberts?
I'd just like to say that you guys have done a great job kind of translating our vision or planning that happened that day and breaking it down into actionable content, so thank you.
Brett Ives was very helpful, and, we've used him before, and he really understands our business really well, and he also understands the municipal angle and the government angle and the nature of how long things take, so I think this is really good. Do I have a motion to adopt the 5-year strategic plan?
I will make a motion to adopt the updated 5-year 2021-2026 strategic plan.
I'll second.
Karen, please call the roll.
Director Magner?
Aye.
Director Dransfeld?
Aye.
Director Kelly?
Aye.
Director Roberts?
Aye.
Chairman Malloy?
Aye. Okay. That brings us to 8B. Consideration and approval of the request for bid proposals for the construction of Phase 1 of Arneal Ranch Park renovation project.
Good evening, board, again. And I know it's probably strange seeing me up here for this one, rather than Bob, but he's right here, so if you have any questions about specific stuff, by all means. Part of the reason why I'm up here, actually, though, and you probably all know this, is that I've obviously been involved in this project from the very beginning, from the grant application to the master plan to now the planning of this phase, so it feels right. So to summarize, the Arneal Ranch Park Draft Final Design Concept, which is a mouthful, I know, was completed in July of 2019. And the estimated cost of the entire project plan was estimated to be a little over $4 million. And I will say that, though, with the caveat that approximately 28 to 38% of that would be markup. So that was written specifically to apply for a grant from the statewide park program. However, the district did not receive that grant. So Phase 1 was approved in November 2020. That cut down the project to specifically just the outside of the track and some major irrigation work and some infrastructure work. And the estimated cost at the time was $1.1 million. Phase 1 design was completed, and the construction bid documents are included in your packet for approval. So a little bit more background here. Arneal Ranch Park was developed in 1980, making it 41 years old. Contains a track, the district's only track, fitness stations that are arranged in somewhat of a fitness course, sort of. Restroom building, picnic areas, playgrounds for ages 3 to 12, and a large amount of open space. The park is 5.01 acres in total. And like I said, the grant application for park renovation was unfortunately denied in 2019. And the entire concept design, including Phase 1, was created through community input and through a process that was overseen by Withers and Sandgren, who have been great to work with. The Phase 1 design contract was approved in September of 2020, and the same architectural firm, Withers and Sandgren, developed this Phase 1 design as well. So the entire purpose of this particular phase was focused on doing work one time. You'll notice that in the included documents, it's primarily focused on underground items that would require things to be dug up, destroyed, demolished, et cetera, to get to, which would hopefully not have to be done again if we were doing future phases of the park at a future date. Additionally, it's for preparing the park for future feature expansion and construction as well. So the work is broken into 6 categories: demolition, grading, construction, landscaping, irrigation, and lighting. And I put bid alt around lighting there, as lighting is considered one of the bid alt items, as it could be a potential problem for budgetary purposes, but we can get further into that through discussion as well. Demolition primarily will be involved in the removal of concrete and current fitness stations that cannot be repaired or feasibly replaced with equipment that is from the same time period. I know we have a mixture of equipment out there. Some of it is 30 years old at least, and others are much, much newer, but some of the older equipment, unfortunately, is not able to be replaced or repaired. Grading to address some drainage issues, which I know, Director Malloy, you have pointed out many times over the past 3 years that that park does have some severe drainage issues. And, there we go. And construction will include concrete detail work, some new fitness stations, and a decomposed granite fitness trail, which will be a new feature to the park, some ADA improvements, and redesigning the neighborhood entrances to create a more secluded park feel from those cul-de-sacs that are surrounding the park. That was specific requests of the neighbors to keep foot traffic out of their yards specifically, and to keep people from parking and taking up spaces in front of their houses. Those entrances are key to the neighborhood being a neighborhood park, but at the same time, it's community features to drive a large amount of traffic through that park. So there's a bit of a balance there that we have to strike. So this allows, the redesigned entrances allow a little bit more privacy. Additionally, the landscaping, this will be, I don't want to overstate this will be a wholesale landscape change for this park. Right now, it is primarily green grass, flat, and it's a beautiful park, but this will remove over 50,000 square feet of turf and include over 3,000 new plantings of drought tolerant and less dense plantings than what's currently out there in regards to turf. Additionally, the irrigation system is planned to be entirely redesigned. There are some, I would consider them residential sprinkler heads out there. And in combination with some commercial, I mean, there's 40 years of 3 different phases of irrigation out there right now. So the entire system is slated to be redesigned. That'll include a large amount of overhead, traditional rotors, drip irrigation in some sections of the drought-tolerant plantings, and point source, meaning there is a head for a plant to limit the amount of water usage in the park. Additionally, like I said, commercial rotors I specified there because we have residential heads in the park, so I felt like that was something that we might want to specify that, yes, these are actually going to be commercial rotors for a commercial purpose. Lighting, there is approximately 3,000 feet of conduit included in this plan, and 43 lighted bollards that are planned to be included on the outside portion of the trail of the park for the fitness trail that doesn't currently exist. Additionally, these lighting bollards are planned to be approximately hip high or thereabouts to keep the light low and not into the neighborhood, and it will also replace the giant light pole in the middle of the park for no apparent reason. The fiscal impact of approving the RFP, there is no fiscal impact of approving the RFP. The original budget for this project was $1.1 million. However, the estimate as it came back from the architect for this particular phase was approximately $1.278 million, thereabouts. However, the district has applied for a turf removal rebate, which for the entire 50,000 square feet of turf through the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. That turf removal rebate potentially may not be approved this fiscal year. However, it can be reapplied for in the next fiscal year as of July 1. So if they don't have the money in their rebate budget to approve it this year, there's always the chance that we can reapply. Material costs have gone up since this process started approximately 30%. Unfortunately, there's really not a lot of way around that. And the district has included some bid alts in electrical and fitness equipment to potentially mitigate the cost of the construction bids. So the overall cost, yes, it has come back. The estimate has come back over budget. However, there is potentially some flexibility with the construction bids when they come back. So the recommendation is that the Board of Directors discuss and make a motion to approve the request for proposals for the construction of the Yarnell Ranch Park Renovation Project Phase 1.
Thank you, Anthony. Questions from the board? Elaine?
Anthony, with this plan that we have in place, even though we've started on it, or we're going to start on it, if we get money from the Nexus study, the fees, would that be something that we could use to move this along?
Yes.
Okay. that's what
Depending
I
on,
thought.
sorry.
Huh?
Depending on what it is included in the project.
Well, yeah, I understand, but this would be, within this project could definitely fit into what those fees could be used for.
Potentially. So when I say potentially, it means that they can be spent on something like the new fitness trail. However, if they were going to be spent, they can only be spent in proportion to what is considered a new or expanded capacity feature. So if we were going to be spending it on, say, the reseeding of the inside of the park, we already have grass there, we can't use Nexus study fees for those.
Yeah, okay.
For that purpose.
Okay. But there could be money spent down the road, like, yeah, you're saying probably the path, maybe some of the amenities and things? Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions?
With regards to the ADA improvements, I know that this is just phase one, but I'd seen recently that Ventura City created their first fully inclusive